Let's get ready to rumble!
All right, cool. Hello and welcome to Netflix. What the heck? Wait, Shaun, what have you just done?
Oh, just yeah. That's
Oh, okay.
That's the original one.
You've got mailed by the what? What did you say? The other one
This is the corner shop. That's James Stewart. Yeah, that's James Stewart and Margaret Sullivan. So there's the two films together.
Was she a child actress?
I don't actually know that, to be honest with you, Sharon.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, well done.
Cool. For anybody who's listened to that, we'll see it on YouTube. Shaun just did something weird with his background. But anyway, hello and welcome to Netflix for the Cinema, the podcast that is feeling a little bit like Sherlock this week. My name is Tosin, and I am your host based up in the Midlands in the United Kingdom. Joining me as always on the Isle of Wight are Sharon.
Hello.
And Shaun.
Hello.
Right, yes, and yes, we join us in a week in which I think the big film that's been in the cinemas is Shang-Chi, or as they say in the film, Shang-Chi. Or Shaun, you showing up some moves. Have you been
Bruce Lee?
Have you been inspired? Have you been inspired to sort of throw some shapes?
The thing was, I was really into the Kung Fu era, obviously with Bruce Lee and all that, and I was also into the Marvel comics.
Yes. And
the one came out, Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. There were two. There was Iron Fist and Shang-Chi, but I didn't actually like the comic strip version of Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
And they also brought out some like larger magazines for a while. It's obviously the Bronze Age of comics, and it became like a small sort of annual almost. So yeah. So anyway, yeah. Sorry. So I was intrigued to see if it was going to be like the comics were.
Yeah, because I think the original comic book was this is not even the Shang-Chi review. We'll get to that later. This is just this is just Shaun this is Shaun showing off that he's lived through things, and this is me showing off that I've read a lot of Wikipedia. But so it's like but I think the original one was made to capitalize on because it was released around about the time Enter the Dragon was done. And it was sort of like, a bold-faced Marvel thing at the moment, martial arts is very, very popular. Yeah. Let's capitalize on it. So they did it with, obviously, usually when these things happen, not the most sensitivity, not the most cultural sensitivity, but we will talk about that when it comes to the film later on. But apart from that, what else have we seen in the cinema this week? Sharon, I'm going to start with you because I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yes, I did not get a cinema visit this week. Life got in the way. So I didn't get to see a cinema. And I knew that you chaps would be all over Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
And I don't think I was left with a lot.
Well, as we know on this podcast, anybody listening to this podcast to know that Sharon might not have been able to, but we have a Shaun. We have a Shaun to balance these things out. It's kind of like that scene in the Avengers where Loki goes, "I have an army," and Tony Stark goes, "We have a Hulk." It's kind of like we have a Shaun to make up for these things. So, Shaun, what did you see in the cinema this week?
Okay, I saw a People Just Do Nothing, big in Japan.
Oh yes,
and I saw also Night House, which was sort of last week I saw that. So those are the two I've seen at the cinema. And I nearly, although it was on really, really late, I nearly watched Rise of the Foot Soldier, but I didn't quite manage to get that one.
They're still making those.
They're still making, yeah, that's what I thought. Vinnie Jones was in this one if I had caught it, but I didn't actually.
But you see that Rise of the Foot Soldier is one of those things that I've heard of, never watched any of them.
No,
but it's one of these weird franchises that seems to cost no money. It just keeps ticking along in the back without you realizing how successful it's been. You kind of think, oh no, nobody watched that. Why are there 5 of them? It's because somebody watched that, it just wasn't you. All right, cool. And I got to see. Okay, so this is usually the point because you spoke about Night House, another film I didn't even know, I haven't even heard about, but and this is usually the point in the podcast where I complain about how there are no interesting films apart from Blockbuster Fair that has been released at the View Cinema Redditch. But this week I didn't go. This week I had one of the most unique cinema viewing experiences of my life so far. I went to the Everyman Cinema in Birmingham, and they have I have to give them a big up for this because at 11 o'clock on Tuesday mornings, they have a baby cinema where essentially people with young children, younger than the age of
cool.
people with young children younger than the age of 1 come in, and you sort of like you take your baby in there and you can watch whatever film is on. I think last week it was The Courier, this week it was Shang-Chi.
Younger than the age of 1.
Yeah.
So proper totally wee babies then.
So proper tiny babies, and you go in there like for the price of your tickets, you get to see the film. They bring you to your seat a hot drink and a cake or popcorn, whichever one you want. And you just sort of sit down there and watch the film with this. And because obviously everybody there has kids, if the baby starts fussing, you can hold the baby and you can walk around the cinema, like, just sort of try to. And I was like, this is awesome. This is absolutely awesome. I was like, I've never done that before in the cinema, walking around and there's a whole bunch of like, parents and catch each other's eyes and like, yeah, I know, yeah, me. And it's so no, I think it's brilliant. I think it was great that they did that, and I just thought I needed to sort of give them props of the Everyman Cinema in Birmingham for having a baby cinema 11 o'clock every week, and also because my wife found it online and she was like, "We gotta go quick! They won't let you come in after your baby's 1 year old." I don't know how they'll know, but
no.
but
that's brilliant. That's really good.
I know. I think it's brilliant. I think what they did was good. Was really, really good. And also, there seems to be something in the water, because I know that Sharon, you saw Wonder Woman 1984.
Yes, finally caught up with it.
Yeah, because we spoke about this last week on the podcast. And also, my brother, I think this must just have come on Sky Cinema or something, because my brother was watching it this week, and he was it's pretty much live messaging me as I was watching it with his son, going, "Hang on a second, is this not as good as the first one? Am I tired? What's going on?" So, Sharon, quickly, what did you think of Wonder Woman 1984?
Yeah, it's not as good as the first one. I think that's consensus, but I would agree with. Yeah, it seemed to lose its way part of the way through, and now I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking, what was it about again? And it's only a few days ago. So, the wish thing, the wish stone thing. It just feels like it was an elongated television show, really, rather than a proper feature film. So. And it's an old story, isn't it? Be careful what you wish for, because there's always a sting in the town. There's always a price.
Yeah.
So we've heard that story going back to the Monkey's Paw, haven't we? So, yes, it was an interesting outing for Wonder Woman, and to sort of see Chris Pine resurrected for sort of an 80s outing and his different outfits. But yes, it felt like it probably could have been done in half the time.
And yeah. I guess everybody wished for bad things and greedy things rather than the people that would wish for happiness and peace on earth and goodwill to all men, So
yeah, there weren't many of those, were there?
No, but I'm sure there would have been a few.
Sure there would have been a few. Like, could we have a cure for cancer or something?
Yeah.
I'm sure there would have been, but then none of that appeared on there. It was all
Save
like,
the trees. Yeah, it was all like, let's have the money.
Give
me the money. Show me the money.
Yes, I won't say anything else, because I think we said enough about Wonder Woman.
I think we did. Yes.
Yeah. I'll just agree with you, Sharon, that it is a film that you watch and it stays with you, because you keep going, hang on, what was that? Like a week after you watch it, you're like, what was that? But yeah. So
anyway, what did you see at the baby cinema?
Oh, we saw Shang-Chi.
Oh, that's where you saw it. Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's what I saw Shang-Chi. Yeah, and it's quite clever the way they do it, because they turn the sound down. They turn the sound down so that it doesn't sort of like bother the babies too much. And I figured that what they do is that they only have the speakers at the front of the cinema working, so like it doesn't it doesn't come from the side. It just comes from the front where the screen is, and it means you miss out on some of the Dolby surround sound, but to be able to walk around the cinema with my daughter, I'll take that.
Yeah.
I'll take that. All right, cool. And at home, what did we see, Sharon?
I caught up with, because it's the anniversary of the 9/11 events 20 years ago. I've been watching some of the documentaries about that. So I watched one on iPlayer called 9/11 Inside the President's War Room.
All right.
And that's what I saw on iPlayer.
And Shaun, what did you see?
I saw a French film called The Swarm.
Oh.
Or I think it was called La Nuit. La Nuit. It's on Netflix. So The Swarm.
Okay. You see, now, because we have a WhatsApp group where we say what we've been watching. And Shaun put The Swarm down, and I was like, what, the Michael Caine movie?
The Michael Caine, from 1982.
And,
1980 Frozen to Death.
oh no, but okay, no,
Okay.
French. Okay, cool.
French movie, yeah, 2020.
I'm interested to hear about that. And I saw something called The White Lotus, which has been getting rave reviews.
Yes, I've seen the icon for it, but not
Is that a
seen
film or a series?
It's a series. It's
A
a
series.
six-part series on. I saw it on Now TV, so it's a Sky thing, and it's
yeah.
been getting rave reviews in America and all that. But you'll hear the real review that matters, which is my review.
Yeah, that's the important one.
All right, cool. So let us kick off, and let's kick off with Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings to give it its full title. Now, this is a film. This is the same way that Marvel have been doing a lot of firsts. I think Marvel they have become the most powerful film-making people in the world. They essentially rule the summer, and little by little, they're beginning to flex their powers. They used it to eventually bring the first sort of black superhero who was headlining a film in this new era, because we had Blade years ago, but in this new sort of blockbuster era of things, they brought Black Panther in. They said, okay, cool, we're going to, and they weren't the first because Wonder Woman got there first, but they said, okay, we're going to do Captain Marvel, which is a film, and they're using all these things to sort of take things that you would imagine somebody would have complained years ago that, oh, it isn't commercially viable. Women don't want to watch a film that has a woman as the lead, and like, black people don't want to watch something, Chinese people don't want to watch something that has them in it. And so now they have decided that the latest flex that they're going to do, the latest muscle flex they're going to do, is that they are going to move into the martial arts realm. And we were talking a little bit earlier about Shang-Chi, which is, obviously, it's a Marvel property, so it was based on a comic that they made. Shaun, was it in the 70s, 80s?
70s, yeah. About 1973, 74, I guess.
Yeah, around about the time Enter the Dragon was released.
Yeah, Bruce Lee films were becoming the big thing. Everybody wanted to go to do karate lessons and... Yeah.
And Marvel jumped on the bandwagon and they created this character, Shang-Chi.
Yeah. And at the same time, there's a TV series, I think, called Iron Fist. I've not seen it, but there was another martial arts one called Iron Fist. That was
Iron Fist. Lots of problems with Iron Fist, but so yeah, they created that, and so this film is essentially them taking that character and bringing it in, and at the same time updating a whole bunch of things, because there's been a lot of trouble usually when it comes to the treatment of Southeast Asian characters or East Asian characters in the Marvel thing. Like, for instance, the Ancient One in Doctor Strange, there was a whole problem where they were like, how are we gonna do this? The Mandarin, who is usually like an Iron Man bad guy, they were like, the fact that he was put in the comic as a sort of Fu Manchu character, and it was said. And I know Marvel did a lot of hand wringing, and when the Mandarin and the Ancient One have both shown up in previous Marvel movies, and they've sort of figured out ways in which they thought were quite clever. But even though they were quite clever in the way they dealt with it, they still ended up being like sort of lambasted by a lot of East Asian people, going, this is not showing proper stuff you're taking a job away from an East Asian actor to give to somebody else. But Shaun, carry on.
That's it. Well, in the comics, you mentioned Fu Manchu, didn't you? Well, in the comics, Shang-Chi is Fu Manchu's relative. Son. Yes.
Yeah. So the thing is, I need to actually figure out Fu Manchu, exactly what was on about Fu Manchu, or who Fu Manchu was, or what I need to figure out, because that's something that I feel I missed out on. I don't understand what the
Christopher Lee did a little series on him.
Yeah, but it sounds like it was essentially, it was part of the whole, before I understand, the Yellow Peril, where essentially the West was going, oh my God, China, they're gonna kill us all. and so in this film, you meet up with Shang-Chi, or a character called Shaun, in San Francisco, and you get to meet him. Oh, Shaun, yeah, I never thought of that.
Did you never think of that? I was like, that made me I quite like that.
Oh, there's a Shaun on the telly.
There's a Shaun, yeah.
Yeah, so he's like I think he's probably about 20 something. He's not really probably late 20s. He isn't really going anywhere in his life. He has a job like valet parking at some at some hotel, along with his friend Katie, who they're both of Chinese origin. They both live in San Francisco, and they have a friend who's kind of going, you guys aren't doing anything with your life. You haven't actually achieved anything with your life. And they even have this story about how when Shaun first moved over to the States, he had to be saved by Katie from a bully who was trying to beat him up from a racially aggravated attack, essentially. And so she's always felt really protective of him. And then one day, in a scene that made me think of Nobody, Sean. I don't know about you, but it made me think of nobody.
I know the one you mean. Yeah,
they're on a bus, and these guys come up to him, and he has this pendant around his neck, and they're like, "Give us the pendant." It's like a sort of jade pendant, and he's like, "Oh no, I think you've got the wrong person." It's like, "Give us the pendant, or we'll take it from you." And she's like, "I don't think you know what you're talking about. This guy can't fight." And then all of a sudden, Sean turns into Jackie Chan, and he turns into Jackie Chan, and there's this fight scene on a bus, on a moving bus, by the way, that sort of combines speed, a Jackie Chan movie, a superhero thing, a bit of nobody in there. It's a really cool action set piece. And then it turns out that Shaun is actually Shang-Chi. That's his full name. And when these people attack him, he's like, "I need to go to Macau to find my sister." And you find out more about his story, about who his dad was, and you find out a little bit more about the 10 rings, and then superhero movie type things happen. And I think that's about all you really need to know about this film. I mean, if you're thinking, "No, what exactly is a storyline?" before I go watch this film, you're probably not the kind of person to watch this film. So, but I think this is great. I think it is Marvel essentially doing a proper sort of Chinese fantasy martial arts film. I think the first martial arts thing you get is on the bus. Then after that, it becomes a little bit more superhero-y in the action. So there's no other place that's as pure action as the first action scene that you get. After that, it gets some more fantasy and all that, and it goes into, I'm pretty sure there's bits of Chinese folklore in there that I personally don't know enough about, but there's bits of Chinese folklore to do with dragons and things and the end of the world and all that. But I love this. I thought this was brilliant. I thought that they did it very, very well. I was watching the whole film just kind of going, this is flowing nicely. This is going nicely. And it probably has... Okay, I'll stop there. So, Sean, I'll let you talk in a second. And it probably has, for me, one of my... You know how Marvel, they finish the film and then they have a credit sequence, but this is before the credits start. Before the credits start, it probably has one of my favorite end sequences of all. Oh no! It's the mid-credits scene of all things. Essentially, it's the bit where Wong, because there's other characters from other Marvel movies that come in. Wong tells them, "Your life has changed. Don't worry. That you go home and get some sleep because your life is going to change from this moment on." And then the response to that is probably my favorite final scene of any Marvel movie ever. I just loved this. I thought it was really, really good. Sean, I don't know about you.
Yeah. What can we say about this? Yeah, the pendant thing's really, really interesting because, I mean, being the aficionado of the old Bruce Lee films, well, with the pendant, in the first film, Bruce Lee's big film, his make-through film, The Big Boss, he's actually got a pendant that his mother's given him.
Oh, yeah, he does.
And he doesn't fight. He does not fight through the whole film. You're thinking, come on, when are you going to get fighting? And it's when it gets ripped off. And then he just goes, "Hey, hold it!" And then he just, if you're watching the dub version, if you're watching the subtitle version, he says something.
I broke my promise.
Completely different. Yeah. So that was, I don't know if that was a reference. I sort of thought it possibly could have been in some respect. But anyway, yeah. And I mean, after Black Widow, this was a real pleasure to see, and you're right, Tosin. They got this right. They had this. To me, it was great. And when they even mentioned the Mandarin, and
yes,
I mean, that was just like the super hammy. That was like, I was like, oh yes, oh Tony Slattery. I think that's his name, isn't it? I don't remember, but yeah,
Trevor Slattery.
Trevor Slattery. Yeah, Trevor. Hey, Trev. Yeah, you're right. And I was just like, oh yeah. Because they sort of mentioned that before. And so, yeah, I mean, they brought it all back in. They pulled all the stops together. Yes. I thought it was great. Probably quite a lot of CGI. You could really see the CGI towards the end of the movie. I mean, but I mean, that's cool. It worked. And I really, really like, what is her name? Is her name Nikki? Or who's the girl, like his sidekick? The one
Aquafina.
Aquafina.
Yeah, she plays Katie, yeah.
Katie. I think she's great, and I think she must have been in. She's been in a couple of other things.
She was in Ocean's 8. She was in Jumanji,
Crazy Rich
the Next
Asians?
Level. She was in Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah. But she, I find her quite amusing and quite funny. I think she's quite a good character. Although So, but on the whole, I mean, I know we haven't got a lot of time. I could talk about this for ages, but I mean, maybe that's for another time. But just say, it was really, really good. They brought everything together. It flowed nicely. I sat there. I really enjoyed it. It had enough in there to make it fun without being too slapsticky. Do you know what I mean? And it was, it's just like, and as I say, how can you not like?
Before you give the stars, can I ask one question?
Yeah, of course you can.
Because you've obviously made references to the culture, the background, where it's come from in terms of the comics. Do you need to have any prior knowledge of this film to see and to get it?
No.
I know Marvel are normally quite good in that regard, but even though there's a wealth of background knowledge that for the people in the know, they can snigger and go, yeah, I know all that, what that's all about.
Yeah.
For those of us who are completely ignorant of
Marvel.
It could be a totally standalone film, and
I remember I was speaking to one of my friends, Yatta. He's been on the podcast in the past, and I referred to Marvel as Marvel are revolutionary enough to still turn a huge profit, and so they know if we make this thing too niche, no one's gonna watch it. So
because they're gonna go, I don't understand.
And I think Marvel are brilliant. They are masters at going. There's a wealth of stuff that comes behind this, but we're not going to go into that. We're going to we're going to make it easily accessible for people who don't know anything about this, and still have the people who want about the wealth and everything like that. There's a whole bunch of things that they can go into, and I feel like one of the things I actually really want to do is I want to speak to somebody who is of Chinese descent about watching about this film. I want to speak to somebody about it because I watched it. My wife watched it with me, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't like it as much as say Black Panther," and I was like, "Oh yeah, you're black." Obviously, it's like watching Black Panther sort of scratches an itch. That the way I put it is, it scratched an itch I didn't even know was there, and I would imagine that for somebody of Chinese origin, that this film would have a similar thing to that. They'll be like, oh my god, look at that! Oh my god, they've done that! Oh my god, that's the way dragons are supposed to look, or whatever it is. And they do put in a whole bit like Tony Leung, who is like a legendary Hong Kong actor, is in it.
Yeah,
and there is an actor in it that when this actor shows up, bearing in mind that obviously this is a film that has a heavy Chinese cast, my wife went, of course they're in it. Of course they are. It's just and I was kind of like, yeah, I guess it is getting a little bit like that. But all in all, I think it was great. I'll give it a 4 out of 5. Easy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But good 4 from me. Thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would totally watch this again.
I'd quite fancy watching it in 3D. I'm not normally a major fan of 3D, but I think I might actually try and catch it.
Well,
3D.
I should try to catch up with this one then, because sometimes, as we've said before, if someone else reviews it, you think, oh, that's let me off the hook. But I think this might be one that I might actually go and watch.
It's quite fun, Sharon. It's quite fun.
Yeah, it's. I think it's very rare when you have a film that's just flowing and you're just enjoying the film and you're not thinking about, oh, what else is going? What am I going to have for dinner? What time is it? Looking at your watch, and I think this does that. I mean, that's just like a fantasy film. I think was really good, and also
I might see if my nephew or a brother might want to go see that one. So
yeah, I would hope so.
Check that out.
I would hope so. And also, we always like to give any feedback or things that people give us. And there's a friend of mine called Juan Guillory. You might remember him from when we were interviewing people when cinemas were not around. Yeah, Juan, he's American, and he actually sent me, totally unsolicited, a text saying that he thinks Shang-Chi is the first millennial MCU hero. It's very interesting when you watch the movie and realize it, because he's in a phase of life we haven't seen from MCU characters. And I was like, actually, that's
an interesting point.
It's an interesting point because a lot of the characters that we've seen, apart from Spider-Man, they've grown up, they know who they are in life, they're settled and everything. And he's a different thing, which is kind of like an angle I hadn't realized that Marvel were doing. But once again, I think it's Marvel flexing their muscles to do things that other people haven't usually done. But enough about Shang-Chi, even though I want to talk about it so much more. With Shaun, and that I want to talk a lot about this film. But we need to move on because I need to get out of here by the end of an hour. So we're going to go over to Netflix and Friends, and we're going to go to 9/11 Inside the President's War Room. So Sharon, you watched this. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, it's coming up in the next couple of days to the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, as they've become known as, the terrorist bombing. Well, not bombings. Flying 4 airplanes were hijacked. 2 were flown into the Twin Towers. 1 was flown into the Pentagon, and 1 was taken out before, presumably, it was going to attack the White House. And so this is 20 years on, 3,000 people were killed. And it's going back to that day And looking at it basically from the president's point of view, it's George W. Bush, and he is interviewed throughout, and he basically gives like a moment by moment reaction to what was going on. And one thing that strikes you is, but part of as it was unfolding, it unfolded very quickly. I think there's another documentary that says basically the 102 minutes that changed America. And so basically from the first plane hitting to the second tower collapsing, it was 102 minutes. And that's not a lot of time in which to process what's going on in live time. In the days before, the technology we have now, they didn't have what we're doing now. They didn't have Zoom, and they didn't have this sort of instant communication. And so the president was on a visit to a school in Florida, basically just promoting the domestic a sort of drive to get children reading more, and to that drive for sort of primary education, when the word came in that a plane had hit one of the towers, and the president was first told that they thought it was a twin-engined, like a private,
or like Cessna or something.
Yeah, that it was just a small plane, relatively minor damage. There was no word on casualties at that point, but he was just told, oh yeah, there's a plane hit the two towers. And he was like, okay, we're just going to carry on with our day. And it was only when the second plane hit that people went, hang on a minute, this is more serious than we first thought. And then he basically had about half an hour, he had to go away and then address the nation. And it was literally on the fly. And then his security was saying, you can't stay here. People, we have publicized where you are going to be. You are potentially a target, and everyone around you is a target. But the only safe place for you is in the air. So basically he was bundled onto Air Force One. And then he spent the next sort of rest of the day basically flying from one Air Force base to another. And at certain points of the journey, because again the technology wasn't what it was, as they were flying across the United States from like Florida to Nebraska, basically they flew, and they said as they passed cities they would pick up the transmissions from the local television stations, and often they'd get more information from what they were picking up on the television than they had been when they were getting from their communications. And so they were then really just trying to piece together what was happening. So as a documentary, it was fascinating really, because we all have our opinions as to who were alive in that day as to what the president was doing, because I think what we're all saying, well, where is he? Why isn't he just standing up and saying what's happening? He just sort of disappeared. And that's because basically throughout the day he said, I think I need to be in Washington, I need to be stood in the Oval Office announcing this and this. And his security said, no, absolutely not. We are overriding you. We have more authority in this than you as the president. We are overriding you. We are taking you to an underground bunker at this Air Force base in North Carolina or somewhere. So basically he was bundled around, flying from Florida to Nebraska back to Pennsylvania or something, and then down back into Washington, District of Columbia. So it was an interesting seeing those events from that point of view.
Okay, so when you said George W. So are these new interviews with George W. Bush?
Yes, they're interviews that have only just been made for this documentary, 20 years on. And he was looking back at those events, and then in light of subsequent events, why they decided that they needed to go into Afghanistan, and what led to the events in Iraq, and a 20-year presence in Afghanistan, as it turned out, and how they were more or less convinced within an hour that they knew it was Al-Qaeda who'd done it. Other people were put in the frame, and people had claimed responsibility from different parts of the world, who were quite quickly dismissed, saying that they don't have the capability of doing this, but we believe this is Al-Qaeda. And they were convinced basically by the end of that day, so they knew who was responsible.
So obviously, I mean, with everything that's happening in Afghanistan at the moment, and pulling out, and like the Taliban coming back in power, it's a bit of a timely thing. What was your final thought of this, and how many stars did you give it?
Well, my final thoughts was it gave me a much better opinion of George W. Bush than I had before, because he's largely had a bad reputation, I think, as someone who's not that bright. And actually, the decisions he made and his interview, I'm thinking, because he talks the way he does, he's got this Texas accent, and he has played up on that, he's just a good old boy type thing. People have underestimated him and have assumed that he's he's not that bright. And the way he was interviewed and the way that he was talking about the discussions, I thought, actually, there's probably much more to you than we've ever really appreciated. And I thought his compassion for the people he was with, there's sort of candid photographs of him, like one of his advisors lost his wife on one of the airplanes, and it's the way he was talking about it, the way he dealt with it. And there were people on the planes who were, knew people who had died in the Pentagon and in the planes. And I thought he was I was really impressed by him, actually, much more than I ever thought I would be. Because you get fed a line, don't you? That, His W. And I thought, well, actually, I think we have been fed a line for a while that there is actually genuinely more to him than meets the eye. And I was more impressed than I thought I would be by his conduct in these interviews. So I would say it was worth a watch. It's interesting to see those events from a different angle, which is probably why they did it now.
Yep.
And I would say it's definitely worth a watch. I would give it a 4.
4 stars for 9/11 Inside the President's War Room. Okay, and now let's go back to cinema. Here we have People Just Do Nothing Big in Japan.
People Just Do Nothing Big in Japan. Yeah.
So obviously this is the film version of a TV show that started off on BBC Three, and it's about these guys who run a pirate radio station called Corrupt FM. And okay, so Shaun, I know you usually just like to be wound up and let go, so I'm just going to give like a little bit of synopsis of what the film's about.
Yeah, for sure.
So the film is, from what I understand, Corrupt FM, they have been struggling for success in the UK. They haven't really had it. Then they find out that one of their songs has hit big in Japan, so they go on a tour of Japan to go see it. And then I can imagine that Spinal Tap style stuff ensues. So Shaun, had you ever seen the TV show?
No, I knew nothing about it. All I got from this film ever was in Cineworld they showed that trailer with the, I don't know. Did you see it? There's like he goes, "Hey, it's me!" Like do the thing, and I saw, so that's all I knew about it. And I thought, well, I had a feeling we do the Shang-Chi thing, and to see a movie, and I thought, well, I'll go watch it. I wasn't expecting great things, but I do like mockumentaries. I do like mockumentaries quite a lot.
Yeah.
Knowing nothing about this, I tell you, it did make me laugh. It was quite, and because I thought, there can't be silly personages like this, there just can't be. But then there is, and you sort of see it, and you think, well, I can see. I have known. Well, I haven't known personally, but you're aware of characters that are like that. So they were all believable characters. Yeah. The whole lot of them, even the druggy one, and they were all like. Because one's a postman and one's works in a bowling alley, and this is it all starts off, and they've had this radio station, Corrupt FM, and they're like, hey, we've made it in Japan. But what they've done is, it's in Japan, but it's from this game show, and you know how the Japanese are like, and they have all like massive heads and people running around, and all like that sort of
Takeshi's
stuff.
Castle and Banzai and stuff like that.
Yeah, and all those. Anyway, so and the songs that go da da da, so they go have a little dance, and so basically they go over there. This Corrupt FM the way, forever, Corrupt FM forever, and the Japanese guy, Tanaka, I think his name is, or something like that, starts to sort of push the man. There's a chap who's their manager who just gets sort of kicked out basically, and this Japanese guy takes over, and he tries to change them all and make them wear different uniforms and do like he goes, okay, we've got to do this, we've got to do like a silly dance. So they're
make them into J-pop.
Yeah, make them into like stupid TV characters and all that. So obviously, there's a little bit of falling out, and people go along with it, and then one decides he's they sort of fall out, and then you've got one of them's girlfriend and his daughter, and he goes, we're going to Japan. Oh no, we can't afford to take you. And then she puts herself on one of the other's wives, and she ends up paying for her. So, and his wife, the wife of one of them, she sort of got a little blog with about 55 followers, and she's going, I'm in Japan now, oh, look at this, selfie, famous people. And but there are people like that. There are people out there like that. Oh, I've got to have a selfie.
That's like us with this podcast, 55 followers.
That's us.
Yeah. So I've found this much more enjoyable than what I thought I was going to. I got to be honest. I didn't have any great expectations. I thought, well, it's okay. I'll give it a watch. And I did find it really, really amusing. And I really like that Japanese culture as well. So, and you saw a lot of that. You saw a lot of, they went to like little bars and Like he's got the old food there, like it is with the food. He's like, and he's like, oh yeah, that's not too bad. Well, yeah, that's all right. And it's so they're because I mean it's just totally alien, isn't it? It's totally alien to us, the Japanese culture. And the game show, I would love to see a game show like this bit of music was on, because there's like people walking around with big hammers on their heads and like cheese things and all the like the Chinese girls dress up and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it was totally it was totally in your face. And they had a karaoke bar, and that was so good. They sort of split away. And them in the karaoke bar.
Because I'm gonna be honest with you, right? Sure. When you said you'd seen this, I was like, "What? Really?"
Yeah.
Because number one, the TV show is not something that I would have expected that you would have watched. It's not something I would feel that you would have watched. Because even I haven't watched it. I've tried to watch a couple of things, and I think it's one of those things. I think a lot of it is the comedy of embarrassment and of awkwardness, and you're either into that or you're not. And I'm more not into it than I am into it.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like that thing with like the David Brent on the road and that sort of.
Yes. Yeah.
Those mockumentary type Spinal Tap. And I like it because I like the bit when they're sort of trying to be really, really showy off and quite big in front of, when they're talking to people, and then something happens and you can just see their expressions on the faces. Oh, did they see me do that? Well, and they sort of look away and like,
the emperor has no clothes. The emperor has no clothes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So with this, sure, you enjoyed this way more than I thought you would.
Yes.
How many stars would you give this?
Okay, well, I won't give it I'll give it a 3. On our grading, I will give this a 3. It was okay. It was what it was. It was good enough. It was watching it. It didn't bore me. I quite enjoyed it. It had moments. So yeah. So I'm going to stick with a 3 for this one.
All right. Cool. Good stuff. I think that's actually going to be the absolute surprise of this show. That Shaun likes people just do nothing. I mean, it's all right, cool. And now we go back to Netflix and Friends, and this is something I saw on Now TV, so it's a Sky original, The White Lotus, and this is directed, everything by Mike White, who most people would know because he's a good friend of Jack Black. They used to have a production company called Black and White, and he wrote School of Rock with Mike White. And this is another one of these shows that there seem to be quite a few of them recently that is made about rich, mostly white people doing rich, mostly white things. So, and there's Succession, there's Big Little Lies, there's The Undoing, and it's so the whole idea is that there's this Hawaiian resort called the White Lotus. To begin with, you meet all these characters as they're going on a boat to the White Lotus for like a week, 10 days, almost like a package holiday, but package holiday for rich people. So you have a woman who is pretty much, she is, oh good lord, what's her name? I've forgotten. The lady who made Facebook as big as it is. She wrote a book called Lead In. I'm blanking on her name, but she's pretty. This character is played by Connie Britton. Is pretty much this, and she's going there with her family. She has 2 children, or one's a teenage daughter who is just mean for the sake of being mean, and she has a younger son. You have a couple who've just gotten married. You have he's rich, she's not. You have essentially it tells you something about the dynamic of the relationship, that this whole honeymoon was paid for by his mother. It's that kind of thing. You have Jennifer Coolidge, who plays a woman who's come here to scatter her mother's ashes, but she's like, she's older, she's probably in her 50s, 60s, is not really in a relationship, and you can see that there's a whole bunch of baggage that she has from being his mother. And then the rest of the 6 episodes, they meet the guy who's in charge of who's the concierge of the hotel, called Armand, and it's him. And when you see him, he's meeting them with all the the Hawaiian locals, sort of like waving on the beach, and he's like, okay, everybody smile. Remember, these people are like children. They don't know what they want, but they want everything. You just have to sort of cater to their every whim. And in the first episode, there is a character who it's her first day on the job, and she's pregnant, but she hasn't told anybody because she needs the work. But she goes into labor early, and she gives birth on the first day on the job.
Oh, no.
And Armand is kind of he's like, oh my God, I was ordering her around for the whole day, and she was pregnant. She was about to give birth, and I didn't even know. And so he kind of starts having this crisis of, I'm not sure I want to do this anymore. I'm not sure I want to keep looking after the whims of these adult babies, pretty much, because it's like that's what all these people are. And you have so then there's all these sort of little subplots that sort of start weaving together. You have the couple that get married, because the guy, he's like, you can see he's like an entitled mama's boy, and he essentially is just kind of going, oh, this is not the room we got, and he gets to the point of ignoring his new wife to go and have it in for the manager of this hotel to sort of say, you didn't give us our room, you've cheated us, I'm going to call my mom's going to come beat you up. Pretty much that kind of energy, and I'm not sure I know it's going rave reviews, but I personally am not sure what the attraction of these shows is let's watch a show where we're going to watch rich white people be mean. I mean, why is that? Why exactly is that so? What's the word? Why is it so enticing? Why is this making it? Why is this something in the air at the moment? And they have bits in it where they sort of like words like entitlement come up and everything like that, and they try and talk about it. But the overriding feeling that I was left with after this show is how the rich white people have come into an area and have destroyed people's lives without even knowing that they have done it. Wow. That they've come in with the privilege. There's one of them, because the rich family, the daughter and the son, she brings one of her friends along. Her friend is of a different heritage, so it looks like she might be part white, she might be part black, there might be some Asian in there, I don't know, but her friend is not white. But her friend is still privileged, and comes in there and complains about the privilege, and does something that leaves a horrible taste in my mouth, that essentially just destroys the lives of the people. And the whole idea is that they come in for 10 days, they do this whole thing, they live a whole bunch of disaster in their wake, they leave, and then the final scene of the whole thing is a new group of people arriving to this hotel. So I think that there might be something in there about the cyclical nature of it and about all that kind of stuff. I think it is overrated. I think it has gotten way more press than, I saw it because everywhere I was seeing was giving it 5 stars. So that's why I watched it. I was like, ooh, 5 stars everywhere. This must be great. And I watched it, and maybe the point was that I started feeling really, really annoyed. Maybe that was the point. But I thought there were some good bits in it. I think the guy who plays Armand Murray Bartlett, I think his name is, he's an Australian actor. Never seen him in anything before. He's really, really good. I'm just left with, they just went in there, swept in there, destroyed people's lives for 10 days and then left. And it's so I would give it a 3. I would give it a 3 because I can't get the bad taste out of my mouth. So,
it certainly pops up on my Sky screen every time I turn Sky on. It's one of those, you might have missed this. What's this? Yeah, and it's like, I don't want to watch it.
I think I would love to see someone who's watched it and someone who thinks it's worth 5 stars and have them explain to me
why they thought it was worth.
Why it was worth 5 stars? Because I'm just left with I'm missing something here. I'm missing something.
Well, I've seen films that have got 2 stars on there, and I'm thinking, why have they thought this was so bad that they think that it warrants? What do they dislike about it so much?
No, I thought that with the Resident Evil film once. I was like, oh, it can't be that bad. 2 hours later, oh my god, that's all right, cool. So now we go back to cinemas. And Shaun, you saw Night House. So what is this?
I saw Night House, yeah.
I know absolutely nothing about this.
Okay, well, this was a film which I don't know, it might have slipped under the radar. It was it's basically the story. It starts off, there's this lady played by Rebecca Hall, and she's like a teacher, but her husband has killed himself. Her husband's committed suicide, and she spends the evenings getting drunk and looking through things, and then she's looking through the phone and she sees something, and she says, oh, it looks like me, but is that me? And she does a bit of research, and she finds this bookshop, and she goes to this bookshop, and she actually sees the girl that's in the photograph, and they do look remarkably similar. And she says, oh, did you have an affair with my husband? You did all that? And she goes, no. Anyway, she turns up at the house and says, yes, I did know and I did quite fancy your husband, and we did go out for a drink, and we did this. And then there's this, anyway, that's as far as that goes. And then gradually some strange things start happening, like she wakes up in the night and there's sounds and the music turns on, and you've got all those tropes of and then she starts having visions about these girls being murdered, which look very much like her. And she sees this light on an island because she lives by a lake. She sees this light on the island, and she ends up sort of going over, and there's this house which is like a same sort of house as what she lives in, but just like reversed, and obviously not completed, but so. And there's this old boy who says, "Oh no, you don't want to go down there. What are you doing here? You shouldn't be here," and all this. So it is quite intriguing. It's quite intriguing, and you never know if, because there's like this entity, there's like this thing. Well, she moves around the house and smashes stuff up, and that like she's being grabbed by something.
Yeah,
it's one of those things which you don't know, because obviously she's really, really traumatized because her husband's committed suicide, and whether it's PTSD or something like this. And yeah, this is, and believe it or not, there was one bit in this that made me jump. It got me. It got me. It actually got me. And it was really, really, really clever. And I'll tell you what, Sharon, it's not really, I mean, I don't know if they classed it as a horror film. It's more a suspense film, but I really think that you might like this film. I got a feeling that you might like this film. It's not like gory or horrible or anything like that, but I got a feeling.
As long as I'm not the only one in the cinema watching it, I'm sure I'll be fine.
I could be totally wrong, but it's interest, especially the interest with the girls that look very similar to his wife, you know. And there's also a bit in it where like this entity or supposed entity comes, and she does think it's her husband, and she sort of holds it and all that, and that's when she has all these visions of all these different girls that have been like killed. And so, you know, and obviously there's this house which is on this island which might hold some secrets and things. And so I think, I mean, it's probably one you could wait till it comes on TV, but I have got a feeling that you wouldn't think this was too bad. I wouldn't class it as schlocky horror slashery type thing. More suspense, more intrigue, more that's, you know, where's this going? Where's this going?
Yeah, a puzzle.
To be honest with you, I don't think that it's going to be in cinemas that much longer. So
no, I don't. I think it's sort of slipped under the radar, but it's really well acted. I mean, what's Rebecca Hall? I recognise her from other stuff. She must have been in. Yeah,
the name's gone out of my head. Is it Vicky Cristina Barcelona?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
right. Okay. Yeah.
She was in, I think it was The Awakenings, which was one of those like psychological, verging on horror, haunting-y, ghosty thing.
Right. Yeah.
She was in Iron Man 3.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So she was. I think Rebecca Hall. She's one of these. She appears in a lot of indie stuff. She appears. Yeah. It is.
Yeah. It has got that very indie feel about it. You know, it's not a sort of in your face schlocker. And as I say, the jump bit for me was really, it got me. I was like, whoa, I did not get that.
So okay.
She's in Dorian Gray as well.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm intrigued. Did you see this on the island, or was this a Bournemouth watch?
No, this was on the island. It's on the island, and it's still out. Actually, it's still in the cinema at the moment.
Oh,
it's still on. It was on this week. Whether it'll still be there tomorrow.
Today might be the last one then.
Yeah. So
I'll tell you what. Right, I'll tell you what. While you're reviewing the next thing, I'm going to go have a quick look before I badmouth the View Redditch. I'm going to see if they're showing it.
Okay.
before
Yeah.
So how many stars would you give The Night House?
Well, I'd have to give. I mean, we're talking highs, lows, and all that like we used to. But I'm going to give this a solid 3. I'm going to give this a 3 stars. I say, I don't think it quite scrapes the 4, but it was better than I thought. It was well acted, and the jump was like, I don't know if the jump would be worth the 4. No, probably not. I'll give it a 3. But I think. Well, I mean, it was just a good film. It was entertaining.
So you're saying it was a 4-star jump, and a 3-star film?
Yeah, a 4-star jump and a 3-star film. Yeah.
All right, cool. Cool, good stuff. And now we go back to Netflix, and Shaun, you're up again.
I'm up again
with a film that is not Michael Caine.
Yeah, because that was like in the 70s. Yeah.
A French film called The Swarm.
Swarm, yeah.
I like to think named after a Michael Caine film.
But I think the French word is la noob. La noob. So,
right, cool.
Okay. So this basically is, it's a story of this French family, well, mother, son and daughter, sort of a teenage daughter, and a younger son, just sort of, you know, maybe 12-ish. 10, 12ish. Anyway, and she's very eco-friendly and all that, but she breeds these locusts for food. So she breeds locusts and then sort of puts them down for meal and tries to sell them. And she's trying to sell all these things, and she's not getting particularly very far. But anyway, one day the young lad who's played at football, he injures himself, and he's got like a little cut on his hand, and he's got some pet locusts in a tank anyway. And then he goes and one comes on his finger, and it really likes the taste of. You see it sort of having a good old lick of the blood.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden they this tent, and things aren't going particularly well for her. So the mother has a bit of a rage, and she slips over, she bangs her head, and she gets knocked out. And there's blood. There's like a pool of blood, and she's in the locust thing, and the locusts pop down, and they decide they're going to have a little. They quite like.
I'm
this.
not liking the way this is going.
And all of a sudden they're like. There's like loads of them. They start really, really reproducing. Wherever she's trying to go, oh no. So she has to get buy these more tents so she can make more locusts, because now she's making some money because the people are buying them for their bird farms or chicken farms or whatever like that, and there's good protein, nutritional stuff. And so there's more and more. They just love it all, and she starts buying blood from like the abattoirs and stuff to feed
the swarm.
So to feed the swarm. Anyway, basically,
when she sells these locusts, are they alive or dead?
No. She sort of prepares them and grinds them down and cooks them, whatever. Anyway, so the teenage daughter, obviously, she's got friends. She's at school, and you know what teenage daughters are like. They can get a bit, some teenage can be pretty nasty to other teenagers, can't they? So one day she sort of, she sort of gets a bit angry with her mother, should we say. She's been really good all the way through in that, but she gets a bit angry with her mother, and so she decides she's going to sort of slash one of these tents with all the locusts in and things. So set free all the locusts.
With a taste for blood. Okay.
Locusts with a taste for blood. So she opens all these, and of course they escape, don't they? So you can imagine what's going to happen. What? No way! You can imagine what this swarm's going to do. So you got this swarm of blood-sucking
blood-sucking locusts.
Yeah, blood-sucking locusts sort of spreading out across the plain. So that's pretty much the story. So you can what
that's that when there were holidays. That
okay, but as for I thought the acting in this was really good. I thought it was going to be subtitles, but it wasn't. And although it was a French film, I wondered if it must have been because they've got slightly American accents, although they're French accents, and there was some French in it.
Was it on Netflix by any chance?
It was a Netflix one, yeah.
They started dubbing a lot of their foreign language films, I've noticed. Really? It's hard to find them in subtitled, because I saw a Russian one. I only got about a quarter of an hour in, because I got so fed up with the dubbed voices. I was like, can I not turn this off and just watch it with subtitles? And they wouldn't let me. So I don't know if that's a thing that they've just started doing.
Right, possibly, because it was very, it sounded Canadian French, because I thought, did they dub it? Tosin got a look on his face there, like they might have.
Oh no, I'm just showing. I was just checking because I've gone into Netflix just now, and I've just checked to see whether this was a Netflix film or a film on Netflix.
Right. Okay.
This is a Netflix film, so it's branded with an N and everything. That Shaun likes.
I know. That
Shaun likes.
Have you been bitten by a bloodthirsty locust or anything?
It was just it quite intrigued me really when I because obviously the Michael Caine and the Olivia de Havilland, was Olivia de Havilland in that as well, with they were bees, weren't they?
Yeah, they were bees. Yeah.
And I actually read this. I actually read the synopsis, and sometimes some of these foreign films, as we know, can be quite interesting, quite good. So I sort of give it, and I gave it a chance, and I watched it, and I thought, this is pretty good, and it's very, very well acted. I think it's extremely well acted, and I like that a lot, because quite often in some of these films, especially teenagers,
they don't even
kids,
try, do they?
You can't even, you're not convinced by them. Whereas I was pretty much convinced by this. So this was enjoyable. This was okay. This was good, and it's going to get a 3-star. It's going to get a 3-star. As I say, I think with Sharon's grading, which I think is a really, really good system, which I am going to sort of work by, because I am pretty much all over the place, aren't I? Really. So yeah, so this will get a solid 3 stars.
If you want to know what Sharon's grading is, please do have a look on the Netflix vs. Cinema chat, in which Sharon has put it down there and told you exactly what films get a 5-star and what films get a 1, and what films would get a 0 if she was allowed to give those. But all right, cool. So, okay. So I'll give you an out, Shaun. This film wasn't made by Netflix. The film was made, and then Netflix bought it. So,
right. Okay.
So yeah, I'll give you that. They just don't want the cash to make it, but you can kind of keep your whole thing about Netflix don't care about quality.
Okay.
But
thank you, Toes. Thank you.
But of a Netflix film, a Netflix branded film, a 3-star Netflix branded film from Shaun, that is like
that's good.
That's like Christmas. But,
yeah.
All right, cool. So now all that's left to do is to tot up the numbers and to see who is it, for those of you who've been paying attention at home, who is it that has won this week? Sharon, Shaun, who do you think has won this week?
I think it's a draw.
Well, I was going to say the same. I think it's a dead heat. I think we've had 4s and we've had 3s, and I think they've been evenly spread.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with a dead heat.
Okay, I think no. This is the thing. I think you guys have started paying attention as we're going along, because it is a dead heat. Round one, we had Shang-Chi with 4, and then we had 9/11 inside the president's war room with 4. People Just Do Nothing with 3, Against the White Lotus with 3, Night House with 3, The Swarm with 3. So every single round was level pegging. Nobody's winning this week, and so we have that rare beast of a draw on Netflix versus cinema this week. So yeah, well done Netflix, well done cinema. Let's keep it up, and let's come back next week and see what's going on. And we'll come back next week. We do not know. I don't know what's coming out. But if everything is going to go in the usual way,
is Aretha out this week, or is that another week?
Respect is out this week. I just checked View Cinema Reddit. They don't have The Night House, but they do have Respect. So
ooh, yeah, that'd be quite interesting. So we got Respect and
R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
We got Respect. The problem I have with Respect, what I have with this is that I've seen trailers and everything, and it looks like a by the numbers biopic. If it looks like Walk the Line, it looks like Ray. It looks like it looks like I'm just kind of like. It looks like a nailed on 3-star movie if I ever saw one. But I know I need to get out of the habit of reviewing films before I've even seen them. So
I'm going to see what's on Monday. Oh, Cop Shop.
Oh, Cop Shop. Yeah, the Gerald Butler, Frank Grillo, Sharon, Frank Grillo.
Yeah.
Frank Grillo and Gerald Butler in a movie.
Is Frank the bad guy though? If Gerard's in it.
I actually don't know. I know one of them.
I think from the trailer it looks like Jared's the bad guy, but possibly could possibly be a good guy. Because I think
Frank Grillo's got a moustache, hasn't he? And that tends to bode well. That tends to err on the side of facial hair.
Is it kind of like black hat, white hat?
Yeah. He's got a moustache that never bodes well.
His moustache, don't trust him.
We've got Malignant, whatever that is. We got Respect. And that's about it, I think. Oh, Origins is still on. The Foot Soldier.
Oh, good lord.
Oh, good lord, yeah. Oh, and it's a bit earlier. So that is a possibility.
Right.
Maybe. We'll have to see what happens.
Right. Okay, anyway, with that being the case, it's time to say a goodbye from me.
A goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.
We will see you guys next week.
Yeah.